Hey guys, welcome to Story S13 channel. Today, I'm going to be reading creepypasta. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then stick around. This story was originally posted on Reddit, and it is quite long, so make sure you stay for the whole thing. I won't waste any more of your time. Let's just get right into it. Also, this is probably going to be a one-off thing. I don't know. It just depends on how well it does. I read through it, and it wasn't really that deep. It was just a letter from a 16-year-old girl to her future self. Sure enough, each page was dated almost 2 years into the future. What was supposed to be a letter of comfort turned into a mystery novel. I raced through the pages, desperate to find out why this was happening. The letters told of my life, mundane details like what happened at school, what I ate for dinner, and even my menstrual cycle. They also spoke of my plans for the future and the things that I hoped would happen. But there was no one else who knew about this journal, and there was no way that they could have known what I was going to write. I couldn't explain it. I felt horrible. I set the book down, confused as to how it could possibly be dated 2 years into the future. When I came back, I felt better. I told myself that I had imagined the whole thing and that I had just written those letters a while ago. I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do. I don't know how this is possible. Am I time traveling? What's happening? I hope that I can figure out what's going on. I started looking through the journal, trying to find the beginning of the letters so I could get rid of it. I flipped through the pages and found the letter where I had written it with a pencil. It was the one where I talked about liking a boy. I looked at the date. It was from October 2022. I flipped through the pages and found the reply. It was from November 2022. But when I opened it up, it was filled with doodles and nonsense again. There was nothing before August 2027. I was confused. Why was the journal like this? Why were the letters only from 2027 and 2028? Why did it stop? The replies were from January 2028, and they spoke of things that hadn't happened yet. Things that couldn't have happened because I hadn't experienced them yet. All the pages were blank, except for the lines where you're supposed to write. But the words weren't written in ink. They were written in pencil. I grabbed a piece of paper and a pencil and started writing. Sure enough, the pencil markings rubbed off onto the paper. The journal wasn't haunted. I had written these letters with a pencil and rubbed them into the pages. For example, on July 2027, I wrote about a fight I had with my mom. The reply said that we eventually made up and that she apologized, but we haven't spoken in months. My dad left us and my mom moved to another state. We did not speak at all, and she certainly never apologized. My mind tried to convince myself that I had written it when I was just 16. On December 2027, I wrote about getting my license and how nervous I was for my driving test. The reply said that I passed and that my parents were so happy they took me out to dinner afterwards. This hadn't happened either. In fact, I hadn't gotten my license yet. I was too scared to drive. I continued reading and my heart sank. But I was sure I would remember writing such a letter, and I'm pretty sure that I did. I wrote his name, spelled it phonetically, since I couldn't remember how to spell it. I talked about how he was going to my school dance and how nervous I was to ask him to go with me. The reply said that I asked him and that he said yes. I continued reading in disbelief. To combat this, I went to see a therapist who helped me tremendously. The reply said that I didn't go to school and that I ended up having the flu. I stopped reading. I was sick. I'm actually sick right now. I felt my throat start to close up. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up into the toilet. I felt awful. One of the tools she gave me was a journal where I could write down all of my worries and secrets. She told me that writing things down helps get them out of your head and that they whoa and seem so big once they read on paper. This made sense to me, so I started writing in the journal every day, multiple times a day, writing down whatever random things were making me anxious at the time. But let me know what you think of it down in the comments. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I no longer need to see a therapist, and my journal has been collecting dust on the shelf. That is, until yesterday. I was cleaning out my room and decided to take the journal off the shelf to see if there were any particularly bad entries that I had forgotten about that might still be eating away at me. I opened it up at random and started reading. The first few pages were filled with nonsense and doodles, but soon I came across an entry dated August 2027. Confused, I continued reading. The first story is called Letters from the Future by Chaotic. I've always been a bit of an overthinker, so much so that I have pretty bad anxiety. Fast forward a couple years, and I am doing great. It was a letter written to my future self, talking about how my life was going and some of the things that were happening at the time. So I picked the book up again and started reading from the top. The most interesting part was that in the margins, there were replies to my letters, also handwritten, but not in my handwriting. I continued reading, and it got worse. On February 2028, I wrote about how I liked a boy. On March 2028, I wrote about how I was sick and thought I had COVID. I tried to tell myself that it was just a coincidence, that someone else had written these letters and that I had just randomly come across them. I needed to distract myself, so I got in my car and drove to the grocery store. I decided to go back to the beginning and start reading again. This time, I noticed something strange. Confused, I looked at the dates. They were still written in ink. Currently sitting in my room on April 2023, listening to my old self talk about things that haven't happened yet. That was the last entry. There are no more after that. Yeah, that was Letters from the Future by Chaotic. If you liked it, please leave a like.